Ava Kunja Bihare Gopi Jana Balava Giri Bharadhari Gopi Jana Balava Giri Bharadhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachare Yamunatira Vanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopi Jana Balava Giri Bharadhari Gopi Jana Balava Giri Bharadhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachare Yamunatira Vanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jai Jai Prabhupada 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahangsa Parvrajakacharyas Tadasasi Samad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON Svandracharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Sri Sri Radha Radhanath Ki Sri Giri Govardhan Ki Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Sankirtan Yagya Ki Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 3, talks between Lord Shiva and Sati. Verse 4 is on your list, I guess. It's on the sheets. Right. Tasmin Brahmarshaya Sarve Devarshi Pitri Devata Asan Krita Swastyayanas Tat Patnyash Cha Sa Bhartrika Tasmin Brahmarshaya Sarve Devarshi Pitri Devata Asankrita Swastyayanas Tatpanyascha Sabhatrika Tasmin Brahmarshaya Sarve Devarshi Pitri Devata Asankrita Swastyayanas Tatpanyascha Sabhatrika Tasmin Brahmarshaya Sarve Devarshi Pitri Devata Asankrita Swastyayanas Tatpanyash Chasabartrika. Arshaya Sarve Devarshi Pitri Devata Asankrita Swastyayanas Tatpanyascha Sabartrika Sarve Varshi Pitri Devata Asankrita Swastyayanas Panyascha Sabartrika Sarve Shipitri Devata Tasman, in that sacrifice, Brahmarishaya, the Brahmarshis, Sarve, all, Devarshi, the Devarshis, Pitri, ancestors, Devata, demigods, Asan, were, Kritaswasti Ayana, were very nicely decorated with ornaments. Tatpatnya, their wives, Cha and Sabartrika, along with their husbands. Translation: while the sacrifice was being performed, many Brahmarshis, great sages, ancestral demigods, and other demigods, their wives, all very nicely decorated with ornaments, attended from different parts of the universe. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In any auspicious ceremony, such as a marriage ceremony, sacrificial ceremony, or puja ceremony, it is auspicious for married women to decorate themselves very nicely with ornaments, fine clothing, and cosmetics. These are auspicious signs. Many heavenly women assembled with their husbands, the Devarshis, demigods, and Rajarshis, in that great sacrifice named Brihaspati Sava. It is specifically mentioned in this verse that they approached with their husbands. For when a woman is decorated nicely, her husband becomes more cheerful. The nice decorations, ornaments, and dress of the wives of the demigods and sages, and the cheerfulness of the demigods and sages themselves, were all auspicious signs for the ceremony. Tasmin Brahmarshaya Sarve Devarshi Pitri Devata Asankrita Swastyaya Nas Tatpatnyash Chasabartrika. While the sacrifice was being performed, many Brahmarshis, great sages, ancestral demigods, and other demigods, their wives, all very nicely decorated with ornaments, attended from different parts of the universe. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presta Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasjatyade Shatarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha. Paditanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yes, so occasionally we get these types of purports, or verses and purports, which are sort of, you could say, culturally oriented. And it's important, it's all important. In current day modern society, the roles of women, you could say, the roles, or, the ambitions, the desires, and what the ladies are trying for in however many, but some significant number of cases, it's very different in principle from what's being described here in the purport by Srila Prabhupada. What's being described here is a type of, you could say, a feature of or you could say orderly human society, definitely a feature of human society when human society is in a more orderly state and, you could say, more natural state, and you could definitely say much more auspicious state than it is today. Today it's just, well, fortunately, we're very sort of protected here. We're not exposed to too much of what's going on in modern day society, and the roles of women, the roles of men, and just the different arrangements which are there in human society for the different types of people. First of all, and I was just thinking about it this morning in the light of this purport, in more like what we call Vedic times, but just times gone by, when a social system based on the Vedas was much, much more prevalent. So first of all, the different groupings, at least say men and women, those two groupings, they would be going on, first of all, in terms of varnashram. There would be Brahmins, of course, as here there's many Brahmins who are coming along for this great Brihaspati Sava, sacrifice of Daksha. So there are many Brahmins, and they were, in so many cases at least, they were married men, and their wives were Brahmanis, were Brahmin ladies. They weren't just women, as a sort of a single group. And those Brahmanis, those Brahmin ladies, they would assist their husbands in the husband's Brahminical activities of education, of the performance of sacrifices and other religious ceremonies and functions. The ladies would help, and they not just help in the sense of, in some abstract, general sense, but in very Brahminical ways, because they were Brahminical people. They were not just women. And Kshatriya society was the same. The men, of course, in Kshatriya society, they were very, very powerful men, fearless, completely fearless. We mentioned yesterday, I think it was, wasn't it, about how the Kshatriya men, as young men, they had to prove their statuses or their qualifications as Kshatriyas by fighting single-handedly and killing a tiger. And yes, so that was there. But then the ladies, they were also not just women, they were Kshatriya ladies. And Srila Prabhupada tells the story, I think it's a fairly famous story, of how one Kshatriya king fought in battle against somebody and got defeated, but somehow he survived. And he then returned to his palace afterwards, but found the front entrance locked. And so he called out, let me in, I have returned. And his wife, Kshatriya lady, said, who are you? What do you want coming in here? And he said, no, I'm the king, I'm your husband. And she said, no, you're not. If you were really my husband, a real Kshatriya, you would have died, either been victorious or died in the battle. So you're not my husband. You heard that story, yeah? Yes. And some of those Kshatriya women, some of them fought in our, when we go for parikrama in Vrindavan area, last couple of years, well, back in those days, pre-COVID, last couple of years, we rented an ashram in Govardhan town. I mean, simple, but quite decent enough. For maybe it was about 150 devotees or something like that. And out in the front, just, there's the roads, the main road, Parikrama path from Govardhan town going around the hill. And so there's the road and the front fence, and then there's a little, I don't know, maybe 10 meters or something, where there's just open space, and then the buildings start. And right out there at the front, just inside the property, is this big statue. I mean, really, it's big, of one of the Maharanis of, was it Jhansi? Maharani. Queen of Jhansi, Maharani of Jhansi, with her baby tied or secured on her back. And she's on a horse with her, like a saber, and she's just about to hit the opposition soldier who's down, sort of in front of her, in front of the horse, and she's into it. So she's not just a woman, she's a Kshatriya woman, and they would sometimes fight. Yeah. And anyway, so like this. And so those Kshatriya ladies were, I mean, of course, all of them, the Brahmanis, the Kshatriya ladies, they're very cultured people. They're not just, just women, just sort of on the basis of just getting stuff done. but they're cultured people. And similarly with the Vaishyas. Lord Krishna, of course, he is a member of a Vaishya family. And Nanda Maharaj, he's a real Vaishya of the cow-herding variety. And Mother Yashoda, she's a Vaishya lady. She's not just a woman. She's a Vaishya lady. So, as described in a couple of places, but partially in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, when Krishna would initially go out every day to herd the cows, there's a description there, the first times, or maybe every time, he'd be ready to go, and the boys would be there, and the calves would be there. They initially were herding the calves and not the big cows, and they're just ready to go, and they're about to set off, and Mother Yashoda would come and tell Krishna, "Wait, just hold on." "Yes, Mata." And Krishna would hold on, and she'd come and do a very motherly thing, check his clothes. Are you presentable? Sort of thing. And Krishna's standing there like, oh boy. And all his friends are watching, thinking, what a mummy's boy. And then, okay, Mata, thank you. And then they walk off 10 meters, and Mother Yashoda comes running again. "Krishna, wait. Here, I've got some special prasadam." "Mata, I have my lunchbox. It's all right. But no, this is special. And Krishna's embarrassed in front of his friends, who are watching him and giggling a bit because he's a mummy's boy. Anyway, it goes on, and eventually it comes to the point where, after stopping a few times, Mother Yashoda stopping Krishna and everyone having to stop, eventually Mother Yashoda says, "You know what? I'm just going to come out with you. And I'll cook lunch for you out there." And Krishna says, "Mata, we have our lunch boxes. We don't need lunch cooked." And Mother Yashoda says, "All right, well, I'll help you herd the cows. I know how to herd the cows," because she's a Vaishya woman from a cow herding, that section of Vaishya community. She knew how to herd the cows as well as anybody else, because she's a Vaishya woman. And then the Sudras, of course, they're not as cultured by any means, but at least, they're faithful. Real qualified Sudras are very faithful, working people who'll do anything for the master. And the wives, they were Sudra wives also, and they were essentially the same. So that's the first point here in terms of the discussion about ladies and what ladies may do under different circumstances. So like this, it's very different from society today. In the 9th canto, there's the narration about Lord Ram and Mother Sita, and Lord Ram is described. It's right at the end of the 10th chapter, if I remember correctly. of the 9th canto, Lord Ram is described as, of course, he had taken Eka Patni Vrata, the vow to accept only one wife, which in those days, at least for Kshatriyas particularly, and maybe sometimes Vaishyas, it was, not uncommon at least that the Kshatriya men would have more than one wife, and even sometimes several, or sometimes even more. But Lord Ram took the Ekapatni Vrata, the vow, famous vow, one wife. For his enemies, one arrow. And one something else for somebody else. And one word. And one word. Not flexi speak. That, we should do this. But on the other hand, And I read something some years ago, actually, of a politician, I think in England, who did like that. He said, we should do this, but on the other hand, maybe we should do that. And then, but on another hand, maybe we should do something else. And actually, on another hand, maybe we should do another thing. And in the report it said, how many hands do you have? So Lord Ram was a man of one wife, for his enemies one arrow, and in any decision-making situation, one word. Yes. So, and part of his being having one wife was that when Mother Sita was kidnapped, Srila Prabhupada comments there that Lord Ram could have easily manifested multiple, meaning even hundreds or thousands or just whatever number of replacement wives. It would have been less than just, practically nothing. But on the basis of his vow, his determination, he made all efforts to rescue Sita, even at tremendous risk and tremendous loss of life, actually, just to rescue Sita only. He was not like, in some cases, trying to, colonize Lanka and invade and take over and, all that sort of thing. So, Lord Ram was completely faithful, doing absolutely what was ever required to rescue his wife. And so he was, like you could say, just fully dedicated to her. And Mother Sita, actually, I have my highly knowledgeable computer here. Let me just read what it says. Why not? First of all, Lord Ramachandra took a vow to accept only one wife and have no connection with any other women. He was a saintly king, and everything in his character was good, untinged by qualities like anger. He taught good behavior for everyone, especially for householders, in terms of Varnashram Dharma. Thus he taught the general public by his personal activities. And Mother Sita, Premnanu Vricha Shilena Prashraya Vanata Sati, Biahriya Chabhavagya Bhartu Sita Haran Manaha. Yes. Sita Haran. Haran means to captivate. Yeah. So, Mother Sita was very submissive, faithful, shy, and chaste, always understanding the attitude of her husband. Thus, by her character and her love and service, she completely attracted the mind of the Lord. Yes, so these things, like we are saying, these types of states of mind, and what to speak of programs of activity, lifestyles for ladies, for men, in terms of varnashram and, real, like a deeper sense of culture and a deeper, certainly a much deeper sense of trust in other people who were worthy of being trusted more than people are worthy of being trusted now. So, like this, created just an amazing social environment of a real support, cooperation, and everything was the basis, very beautiful basis for real affection. And as we were saying, nowadays, it's a real shame. These things are lost to such an extent. And distrust, lack of faithfulness, and lack of standards, even simple things like cleanliness, truthfulness, these types of things, they are so conspicuous by their absence. Yeah, the divorce. I was reading just maybe this week or last week about there was some article about marriage, and it said, the question was, how many people are happily married? And the first thing they said was, 50% of all marriages end in divorce. So that's that. That's 50% of the people out the window, gone. Then another so many percent, they just hang in there for the sake of the children. And some other percent hang in because if they didn't, where would they get money from? How would they live? Just one of my disciples in Russia wrote to me yesterday saying that her husband who's a drunkard and she's a devotee. Husband's just, like a living disaster. And he is divorcing her because she's too Krishna conscious. And one of her questions to me was, how's she going to maintain herself? Which, is not an invalid question actually, but it's just such a shame. It's just such a shame, and it's just such a reflection, microcosm compared to the macrocosm. It's just, what can you say? Welcome to Kali Yuga. And don't expect that it's going to get any better. Yeah. But here, this description, It's a big ceremony. It's such a big ceremony. Yajna. It's such a big yajna, such a, high-level yajna, that before you can do it, you have to do like a pre-yajna. The Vajapaya yajna has to be done before. Then you can do the Brihaspati Seva yajna. And, it's called the Brihaspati Seva. Just imagine what a big person Brihaspati must be to have a yajna named after himself. But anyway, all these, it was like the event of that time of the universe. And so everybody who was anybody came. As it says, the Brahmarshis, the Rajarshis, the Pitri Devatas, and the other Devatas, the ancestral demigods, other demigods, with their wives, all very nicely decorated with ornaments, and decorated in different ways, very nicely dressed, and decorated with ornaments, jewelry, and those things, and not plastic ornaments with artificial gold, what you call it, plating. You know what I mean? Used to be from Taiwan, now it's from Shanghai. What can you say? It's pathetic. It's very pathetic, actually. But the richness of Vedic society, of just human society, when the proper standards are in place and the people, the social system is structured in such ways that people are able to maintain those standards. Because otherwise, if you try to maintain like some really good Brahminical standard or good Kshatriya standard or even good Vaishya standard, but you don't have support and association of like-minded people and leadership and guidance from qualified Brahmins, to be a one-man show or a one-woman show in the atmosphere, in the environment, social environment of Kali Yuga, you don't really stand much of a chance. And therefore Prabhupada wanted the Krishna consciousness movement to develop so that people would have not just the philosophy and not just the practices, the sadhanas and so on, but actually a social environment which will give the support, etc., that makes it, first of all, makes it possible rather than being impossible. First of all, makes it possible, and then makes it possible for it to really blossom and develop. So the ladies, Prabhupada, it's not just Prabhupada, the tradition, how ladies who are married, how their parting will be in a certain way, their hair will be in a certain way, and if the husband is away on business or whatever, he's not around for the time being, they will part their hair in another way, and they will only wear certain types of things. It's very interesting, and it's very scientific. So, anyway, in this particular case here, what's being pointed out is you've got all these Devarshis, Brahmarshis, Rajarshis, demigods, and just all these very high-level people, highly cultured. And they are there with their wives, who are their heavenly women. And those heavenly women are dressed nicely, nice decorations, ornaments, and dress. And not just to sort of show off to your friends that, oh, look, look at my sari. That sort of idea. But actually to encourage their husbands. So their husbands will get some inspiration from the care that their wife is taking to make herself nicely presentable, and not simply presentable, but also helping in different ways her husband to do what he needs to do. And this is all part of these arrangements which are auspicious and produce the auspicious atmosphere within society. In this case, in this sort of demigod and higher heavenly type of society. But the principles apply with us also. So anyway, it's very interesting, and it's important to note these things and to see their applicability for ourselves. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any comments or questions? Words of wisdom? Swarup Damodar Prabhu. Any comment, question, anyone? From our usual? Mataji? No? Okay. All right. Well, Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.